This is perhaps the most important tip out of everything else that I have to offer. Let's get into some makeup tips for dry skin, especially during the winter. Let's start with our skin prep. Skin prep is so important, not just right before the application, but the night before. At night is when I'll double cleanse and exfoliate if needed. I try to see where my skin's at, what it's needing, what it's feeling. I don't want to exfoliate every single time I see a dry patch because that can just irritate the skin and cause more dryness, and that's what we don't want. So be gentle with your skin. See what it needs. And when you're doing your night routine, from your cleansing balm to your cleanser to your moisturizers, anything that you use, make sure it says hydrating. Anything that's hydrating, even if you're washing it off your face, is going to add hydration to your skin. If you go in with a cleanser that's for oily skin, what that can do is just strip away more of the natural oils that peek through your skin and cause more irritation and more dryness. And that's what we're trying to avoid. We don't want any more dryness than what we already have, right? So use hydrating products, cleansers, all the way to your moisturizers. And for a nighttime moisturizer, go in with something thick. I really enjoy the Pharmacy Niacinamide mask. That's a really good one. Definitely keeps my skin hydrated all through the night. And I will also suggest investing in a humidifier if you can. These are great. I didn't think they did much. I didn't think it would help my skin, but it did. It helps. Every time I use it, I notice a difference with how I wake up with hydrated skin, not feeling dry, not feeling itchy, no dry patches or anything. Invest in a humidifier and make it part of your nightly routine. Exfoliating. Let's talk a little bit about exfoliating here. I think that exfoliating every day was great, but it's actually quite the opposite. It can cause more irritation and more dryness as it strips away the natural oils of the skin. And that's what we don't want. We want those natural oils to come through, especially because we're so dry. So be aware of how often you're exfoliating and using exfoliating products such as any salicylic acids, AHAs, BHAs. You don't want to use those too often and disrupt the skin barrier. Dermaplaning is great. I was a skeptic for a really long time. I was afraid to do it, but it does help. It makes the makeup look so much nicer. However, if you're going to dermaplane, be aware of any other exfoliants you've done before or after your dermaplaning, because again, can cause irritants and more dryness. So if you're going to dermaplane, use something like a hyaluronic acid right after you're done on damp skin, and then go ahead in with your other moisturizers. You don't want to use any actives until 2 or 3 days after you've dermaplaned. And if you're unsure how often you've exfoliated when you dermaplaned, I've created a guide to go along with this video, and it has an exfoliation calendar so you can keep track and make sure you're not overdoing it. So now it's the morning of your makeup application, and for your skin prep, you want to see how your skin is feeling. If it's feeling drier after you've done everything at night, go ahead and rinse your skin with just water. Because again, we don't want to strip away any more oils from our skin. You can dampen your skin with a spray bottle or just splash some cool water over your face and then immediately go in with a serum and your moisturizers as normal. You really want to make sure you see where your skin is at. If it's just a certain area, then focus more your moisturizers and emollients such as Aquaphor or Vaseline on those areas to help heal the skin. Another tip I want to give is when you're doing your skincare, don't go crazy rubbing it in. That's something else that can cause irritation, believe it or not. Especially if your skin is already sensitive, try gently patting in your skincare and it'll absorb better into your skin. Next tip is to evaluate your makeup versus your skincare, which is getting more love here. Now, I know that makeup has come a really long way. We're getting a lot of makeup-infused products with skincare. So a foundation will have skincare ingredients in it. Your blush will have something with the skincare in it. But you don't want to rely on these makeup products to be your skincare. Your skincare should be your priority. It is necessary. You need at least 1/4 teaspoon to get the full amount of SPF that is written on the bottle. Imagine putting 1/4 teaspoon of your foundation on your face. That's not gonna look cute. It's not gonna look good. Your skincare is your skincare, and it's just that. That's what's gonna help diminish any fine lines if you have any, take care of any redness, take care of any blemishes that you have going on. And makeup is going to enhance your natural beauty. okay? And I just want to say, you don't need a crazy expensive skincare routine. You don't need a 10-step skincare routine. Just look for things that are simple, effective, and get the job done. Now let's get into the makeup, starting with primer. If you're someone who uses your skincare as primer, as I do personally, I'll just put on my SPF, let it settle in 15 minutes, and then go ahead and start my makeup application. But if you like to use primer, which I do occasionally, try being strategic with your primer. So if you know that throughout the day, say this area here gets much drier, use a hydrating primer on this area. If your makeup tends to fade around the cheeks, go ahead and use a gripping primer. And if makeup seems to like separate around here, your smile lines, use a gripping primer there as well. It helps to keep the makeup on longer. So using a primer is great, but use more than one and be strategic with it. Now let's get into some foundation tips and application tips. When it comes to foundation, you want to use foundations that have a satin or dewy finish or even luminous and radiant finish. Those are the ones that are going to look great on dry skin, and they're not going to emphasize, rather they shouldn't emphasize any of the dry areas or patches that you have going on. Always use foundations that are hydrating, such as liquids and creams. Those are typically the ones you really want to go for. Now, when it comes to applying your foundation, this is key. I know a lot of people would recommend using a sponge, and I get why, because you're using a damp sponge and it's just going to add more hydration onto the skin. But that can also take away the coverage. So what I like to do is, first I like to see the viscosity of my foundation. Is it a thicker viscosity or a much thinner, runnier viscosity? If it's thick, I'm going to go in with a sponge and press it into my skin. If it's a thinner texture, and I'm just going to use a brush and then take the sponge and press it into my skin afterwards. And this will avoid any excess product around the lines, maybe around the nose area. You really want to be strategic when you're applying your foundation. And please do not take a foundation and just squeeze it on or pump it onto your skin. Even with your skincare, that is perhaps one of the worst things you can do. It's an excess of product. It's waste of product, and all it's going to do is give you an uneven finish with your makeup. If it's too cakey, too patchy, perhaps it's something with your application and not with the formula itself. So be aware of how you're applying your product. And this is going to lead us into our next tip, working light layers. This is perhaps the most important tip out of everything else that I have to offer. When applying your foundation or any of your makeup products, you really want to work in light layers. Squeezing it onto the skin like you see a lot of people doing, or pumping like an excessive amount. It's just going to cause your makeup to look cakey, look patchy. It's going to look like makeup is sitting on your skin, and you never want your foundation to look like foundation. You always want to have the goal of it looking like skin. So less is more, my friends. Less is more. Don't be afraid of powder. I understand why us as dry skin folk, if you're watching, I'm assuming you have dry skin, are told to stay away from powder. And I know why we avoid it. We don't want to look like we have powdery, cakey skin, right? But it can actually benefit the longevity of our makeup. So if you have an event or something, try using powder. However, much like in my last tip where I said work in light layers, you want to work in light layers with your powder. Find the one that works for you. Try using a brush. A brush is going to give a softer application, especially if you have dry skin. Take your powder on your brush and work it into the bristles. Don't go directly from pan to face. Work it in and then gently press it into the skin or dust it where you like. And you'll see that using the powder gives a beautiful airbrushed finish. Even if we have dry skin, okay, we can still get that beautiful airbrush finish, and it's not going to look cakey because we worked in light layers. Lastly, of course, is set it with a setting spray. Use a hydrating setting spray to lock in your makeup and add an extra boost of hydration. After I'm done setting my makeup, I go ahead and take my sponge and just press it in once again to the skin. This is really melting everything together. And for extra longevity, if you want, don't be afraid to use more than one setting spray. I would use my Charlotte Tilbury or whatever setting spray, and then go in with another hydrating setting spray and just keep adding more. It's not making my skin look greasy. It's not making me look super oily and shiny, because we don't want that either. Melting together beautifully and adding hydration where hydration needs to be. That's all I have for you today. I hope you found these tips helpful. Let me know, did I forget anything? Is there a tip that you want to share? Be sure to leave a comment down below so we can all learn from each other. And if you want a more in-depth version, or you want the exfoliation calendar, be sure to download the guide I created to go along with this video. And be sure to subscribe to my channel for more makeup tips, reviews, and more for dry, sensitive skin content. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you all for watching. Bye.